Welcome everyone to the March chapter meeting of the San Fernando Valley Climate Reality chapter. Good to see everybody tonight. We're going to have a really interesting program tonight about the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator with Mike Swartz is on our call now and joining us during our business section. Appreciate you being here, and we're going to go ahead and start our meeting the way we always start, which is with a land acknowledgement. I'm going to share my screen so you can read along as Tara, who is on our leadership team, administrative assistant, will read this for us. Tara?
Yes. Happy to be here tonight and to make this contribution. A land acknowledgement is a formal statement that recognizes and respects Indigenous peoples as stewards of this land and the enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. It acknowledges the history that has brought us to reside on this land, the colonialism that is present in our current systems, and calls on us to be mindful of our own present participation. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Tongva, Kizh, Tataviam, and Chumash tribes.
Thank you very much, Tara. I really appreciate that. All right. Well, what we're going to do during our program is we're going to silence our chat so that everybody can focus on our speaker tonight. And we're going to kick it off by having Michelle Ringler, our chapter's vice chair, introduce our guest. Michelle?
Thanks, Diana. Well, the San Fernando Valley Climate Reality chapter is pleased to welcome Michael Swartz this evening. Michael is the Vice President of Government Affairs and International Relations for the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator, LACI. He manages the organization's relationships with policymakers at the local, regional, state, and federal level. He's also served as the Executive Director of Strategic Research Initiatives and Global Partnerships at UCLA and as Board President for Cleantech Los Angeles. Michael currently serves as Board President of Climate Resolve. So please welcome Michael Swartz.
Thank you, Michael. And everybody, just so you know, we will open up the chat at the end of Michael's presentation, and we welcome your questions. So feel free to start writing the questions as soon as he finishes talking. Mike, we'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Michelle, for the kind introduction. I want to thank everyone else for inviting me to speak tonight. I've been a big fan of climate reality for a long time, and I'm really honored to be able to tell you a little bit about LACI. I also wanted to just correct one thing in the intro. I am on the board of Climate Resolve, and I was Climate Resolve's president for 8 years, but just starting in January, I turned over the leadership mantle to Thomas Wong. So still very proud to be part of that board. So I thought I would go through the slides, and then I think we're going to try and save the Q&A for the conclusion of the presentation. So unless you have a really, really hot and burning question, I'll keep going through, and I think just drop your questions into the chat. So LACI was founded in 2011 by the city of LA. We were incubated in Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa's offices for the first year of our existence, and then we spun out as an independent organization. We formed a board, hired staff, raised some funding, and for the first 4 years of our operation, we were housed in a 3,500 square foot abandoned bus repair depot up the street from where we are currently, while our current building was under construction. And now we have had the privilege of inhabiting a campus called the LaCretz Innovation Campus, which is a really just world-class facility owned by the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. It's a 3.2 acre campus located in the Arts District, which is, we're right across the street from the Downtown Earth Cafe, for those of you who are familiar with that area. And I know that Climate Reality has taken tours of our facility in the past. And, you know, I think it's been probably since the pandemic since we've hosted your group. So we'd love to have you come back and take another tour and see the campus and all the great updates that we've made over the last couple of years. So LACI's mission is essentially divided into three what we call pillars. We have the Unlocking Innovation team, which is really focused on how to support the startups on a day-to-day basis. We have the Market Transformation team, which is focused on policy and pilots. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of these programs because I know this group is particularly interested in a lot of the policy work that LACI does. And then there's the Enhancing Community team, which is something that is really unique to LACI, and that is not only are we focused on the business and economic success of our companies, but we're also really focused on making sure that they pay attention to their social and environmental impact. Our three technology priority areas are transportation, clean energy, and smart and sustainable cities. So this is just a quick snapshot of some of our key metrics. We've helped almost 400 companies since we opened our doors. We've raised over $850 million in investments for our companies. Our companies have generated over $300 million in revenue. We've created over 2,600 jobs, and we are very close to approaching over $600 million in long-term economic impact. And for the last 6 or 7 years, LACI has been recognized by University Business Incubators as one of the best incubators in the world. So I won't go into great detail about all of these items here, but as you can see, LACI had quite a year in 2022. We brought on 54 new companies. We launched the nation's first clean tech debt fund, which is going to deploy $6 million for clean tech startups. We graduated 120 plus individuals from some of our workforce training programs, which is all of our training programs are supported by the state. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. We also had the nation's first ever all-female electric vehicle charger maintenance course. And now that's going to have, I think, this second cohort soon. We helped secure over $100 million in new funding from the California state budget for electrifying drayage trucks at the ports of LA and Long Beach. We helped facilitate the creation of the nation's first zero-emission vehicle equity advocate position, which is now in the governor's office. And that was through the passage of SB 1251. And as someone noted earlier, that bill was carried by Senator Lena Gonzalez, who really has become just a champion of the environment. We work with Congresswoman Nanette Barragan to get language added to the recently enacted omnibus bill, which would call for the prioritization of funding for EV car share programs at public housing facilities. And I'll talk a little bit about that in greater detail. We also secured $1.5 million for a heavy-duty drayage truck charging pilot near the ports of LA. And that was through essentially what used to be known as the earmark process. And now it's called community project funding. We also hosted a lot of high-ranking visitors to the campus, including Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Governor Newsom, Secretaries Jennifer Granholm and Marty Walsh, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and John Kerry was also there, but he's not on this list. And then just before the new year, we hosted newly elected Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. So there's a lot of interest from public officials at all levels in what we're doing. So the market transformation team is really focused on developing policies and helping get pilots launched that are really going to help accelerate the transition to zero emission transportation, clean energies, and more sustainable cities. Some of the highlights of the market transformation team are that we helped secure a grant of almost $700,000 for zero emissions goods movement at the ports. As I noted earlier, we also, at the federal level, got $1.5 million for the port project to electrify drayage trucks. We launched the Clean Energy Partnership, which is modeled after the Transportation Electrification Partnership, which is really focused on advancing the transition to 100% clean energy grid by the time of the 2028 Olympics. And we secured a CARB-funded e-bike pilot that's going to be launching in South LA in just a couple of months. And we're really excited about that. And we're just had a meeting today with a member of Congress to talk about how do we scale that up nationwide. So this is our Transportation Electrification Partnership. This is really focused on accelerating a lot of the GHG emission reduction goals and air pollution targets in time for the 2028 Olympics. As you can see, we have a lot of the region's key stakeholders. We have the city, we have the county, we have state agencies like CARB who play a big role, but we also have the private sector. So as you can see, we have some of the biggest automakers, Audi and BMW, Nissan, BYD, and then we have a whole host of other partners, financial institutions, utilities, and nonprofits. So one of the programs that really makes LACI unique for an incubator is that not only are we, focused on helping our companies grow and expand and become successful companies, but one of the biggest challenges for startups is to help them get their first pilot or their first demonstration project for their work. And this program that we created with the support of the state of California is really designed to help get technology deployed into communities that have historically been underserved and under-resourced. Excuse me. And what we do is we work with our startups to help deploy that technology, and then we work with outside partners as well. And as you can see, we have EV car sharing programs in Pacoima and San Pedro. We're running a free neighborhood electric shuttle down in Leimert Park. And then, as I noted earlier, we helped create the nation's first zero-emission delivery zone in Santa Monica. Here are some of the community pilots that we have planned for the coming year. You can see they're going to be spread all throughout the city. If you take a look at the map there where the stars are located. And again, this scaling of this program is really done with incredible support from the state of California. We were able to secure almost $12 million in funding through the state budget process last year to help scale up this community pilot program and our workforce training and development programs. So the Unlocking Innovation team is really focused on working with the startups on a day-to-day basis to help accelerate the commercialization of their technologies. I'll go through a couple of these programs. So these are the 4 founder-facing programs. We have the Founders Business Accelerator, which is a city-supported program that serves small businesses here in LA that are just focused on their economic development. They don't have to be a clean tech company. We have companies like dry cleaners and coffee shops, bike shops, really small businesses. And this is a 6-month program. We have the Innovators program, which is funded by the California Energy Commission, which is a light touch program that really helps provide network access for early stage clean tech and clean energy companies. And then we have our core incubation program, which has been really the bedrock of our incubation support program since we opened our doors. This is a very hands-on program focused on helping clean tech startups here in Southern California through market access and business services. This is a 2-year program, and it's focused primarily on pre-seed and seed stage companies. And then finally, we have the market access program, which is really focused on later stage companies that are at least Series A and beyond, and it helps them with getting their first pilots put into the field. So the Green Jobs Workforce Development Program is really unique, and it's something that we're very proud of. And it's also starting to be emulated by other organizations around the country. It's focused on creating a training program that will provide a pipeline for a lot of the companies that we work with in our portfolio, but also some of our partner organizations. It starts with a career exploration day, and as you can, that's photo there is from the kickoff for I think 2 programs ago. We have a technical boot camp where the participants get trained in everything from installing and maintaining EV chargers to installing and maintaining microgrids. We just launched a business development training program. And then we also have professional development. So we provide coaching and mentoring for people who are looking to enter a particular field. And then we help place all of the graduates from these programs in internships with our startups and with a lot of our partners. One of the things I'm proudest of, and I don't have the data on here, I should add that to this slide, is we have had great success in bringing in people from underserved communities, people who have been part of the, have been incarcerated. We've had luck in placing military veterans and women and people of color. So we have some really great data on how impactful this has been on some, traditionally underserved communities. And then in addition to the work that we're doing here in LA, LACI has also began to play a role as a policy and thought leader throughout the nation and even throughout the world. Here's just a snapshot from the event that we did in DC last year. It was an advocacy day that we hosted on behalf of all the clean energy incubators around the country. We brought, I think, 15 incubators to DC for 2 days of meetings with members of Congress and senators. And what we're really focused on as a group is getting more federal support for the early stage innovation community. Okay, just wanted to bring your attention to a couple of bills that LACI is supporting. One of which we worked with your organization on, and we're looking forward to having your support on the bill. And we'd like to ask any of you who are interested in becoming advocates for the bill to get engaged. And I put my email address into the chat, so please feel free to reach out to me. The Green Jobs Database, or AB 1224, is a bill that is authored by Assemblymember Isaac Bryant and sponsored by LACI. The concept for this bill came out of the Green Jobs report that we released about 2 years ago. And it's currently a spot bill that instructs the Labor Market Information Division of the Employment Development Department, that's a mouthful, to conduct a green job survey to gather information about statewide green job industry strengths. Just as an aside, at a national level, the classification of green jobs at the federal level hasn't been updated since 2010. And so a lot of the states look to the federal government for guidance on how to classify these green jobs and how to define them. So what we do here in California could really have an impact on how the federal government updates its classifications of green jobs. And we're really excited to work with Assemblymember Isaac Bryant on this bill. So there's the EVs for All bill, SB 529, which was introduced by Senator Lina Gonzalez. This bill, again, is also based on a federal bill that we ran last year with Congresswoman Nanette Barragan. and it would help support the deployment and creation of programs at public housing facilities around the state. We're targeting initially about 100 of them that would eventually fund the EV car share program and the electric vehicle charging infrastructure at some of these public housing facilities. I want to note that we were able to get language from the federal bill, the EVs for All bill, included in the omnibus bill, as I noted earlier. So now the Department of Energy has been instructed to help move the development of these programs forward. What we're going to spend a lot of time on this year at the federal level is actually getting some funding appropriated to actually support the rollout of this program once it's created. So this is the federal bill, and I already talked a little bit about that. As you can see, we work very closely with Congresswoman Nanette Barragan. In this picture here, you can see the cars and the charging system that was set up at the Rancho San Pedro public housing facility down in San Pedro. And in addition to some of the LACI staff who are in this picture, you can see some of the residents of that public housing facility. And, they're incredibly happy with the program, and the data shows so far that it's really getting utilized for, sometimes it's just people who need to go to the store or to a doctor's office, but sometimes some of the residents are able to use the cars for becoming Uber and Lyft drivers, so they can pick up a little extra money on the side by utilizing the cars. We just hosted LACI in Sacramento Day a couple of weeks ago. This is an opportunity for LACI entrepreneurs and program participants to thank a lot of the assembly members and senators and some folks within the executive branch that we work with. The state has really become an incredibly important partner for LACI. I think over the last 4 years, we've been able to secure about $26 million in new funding to help support the scaling of our workforce training programs, our pilot programs. And so this is a great opportunity for us to thank the legislators and let them know what our priorities are for 2023. And pictured here is the group meeting with Assemblymember Laura Friedman and Assemblywoman Luz Rivas. We also did another Clean Tech Innovation Advocacy Day just a couple of weeks ago in DC. And here you can see some of our delegates meeting with Congressman Adam Schiff, and then a picture in front of the Capitol. I think we brought, there were 15 incubators represented, and we had 30 delegates, and we did 32 meetings in a day and a half. So it was a pretty busy day. We also got to go to the White House and meet with John Podesta. So as I noted earlier, we have a lot of interest from national figures in what we're doing here at LACI. When then Vice President Joe Biden visited LACI 7 years ago, he said that he thought that we should be the poster child for the federal government support of urban workforce training and development and economic development. So since then, we've hosted 9 cabinet officials to LACI and a whole host of congressional leaders. And here's a couple pictures of when Speaker Pelosi and Congressman Jimmy Gomez visited. Here's another great shot of Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh and Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm when they visited last April. We had a really great opportunity to get them up to speed on how we're, helping to, make the dreams of the IRA real, and how we're, really focused on implementing the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Bill and the CHIPS and Science Act. Also last year, John Kerry visited during the Summit of the Americas, and I had the opportunity to brief him on what we're doing at LACI. And he and his staff, I should say, were really keenly interested on how do we take a lot of what we're doing here at LACI and potentially help other cities and other regions around the world develop an innovation ecosystem like LACI. And we may do some really interesting projects with his team this year at COP28. So here's a shot from COP27. LACI hosted 3 events at the event, which took place in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt in November. We hosted a startup competition, and pictured here, you can see a couple of the winners of the, well, actually it wasn't a startup competition, it was a startup showcase. So here you can see some of the presenters from the showcase. They represent North Africa, Egypt, Israel, and Kenya. And then we are, as I noted, we are planning some really, really cool projects at COP28. And just want to show you guys a couple of these shots. I got the opportunity to visit with Al Gore at the 2018 training, the climate reality training in downtown. And, you know, we, Vice President Gore and I go way back. I worked for him during the 1996 Democratic Convention, and this is a picture from that time. I had the privilege of driving his children and parents around for a week during the convention. So we go way, way back. So I think that is the last slide. Yes. I'm going to stop sharing.
Actually, Mike, if you would put that last slide back up for just a second, give everybody a chance to see how to connect with you. And I did put your email. It's very simple, mike@laci.org. I put that in the...
Oh, you want to use this?
That one, yeah. Yeah, so that people can see how to connect or follow. And I'm going to go ahead and open the chat up to everyone so that you feel free to go ahead and submit your question into the chat, and we will read it. If you, while people are doing that, Kathy, I know that you worked with Mike regarding the green jobs, and thanks for mentioning that. It's so interesting, the work you're doing. And I've been in several legislative calls where you know, Kathy focused on that and brought it up to inquire what other people are doing. Kathy, I don't know if you have a follow-up question.
Yeah, I just a comment. I'm really excited that Assemblymember Bryan is carrying this bill, and I hope it gets out of the spot position soon. Do you know anything? Is it going to be agendized in committee?
No, I haven't gotten any new updates from Michelle since late last week. So I will let you know as soon as I hear anything.
Okay, or I can track, but I'm really excited because, you know, when we started looking at the California EDD data, it was pretty pathetic. And so this database is hugely important to be able to match the number of jobs with the people who are trained to do those jobs, and to have enough jobs and to have enough workers to make it all happen. So thank you for doing that, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome. And, you know, just as an aside, I just saw some data last week about the shortfall that the United States is going to have in a lot of key positions that are going to be integral to, you know, transitioning to a zero carbon economy. And so this data that we are hoping to collect is really going to be incredibly useful in determining where a lot of organizations deploy their funding over the next, you know, 5 to 10 years for training purposes. So in addition to this bill, there's going to be a lot more that needs to be done at the national level about collecting data on where the green jobs are, you know, how to classify them, how to define them, how much they pay, who's represented in those jobs. It's going to be a really, really big lift over the next, you know, probably 10 years at least as we go through this transition.
Mike, let's shift gears here. You can go ahead and stop sharing your screen. I'm going to spotlight you so people I can feel like they're talking directly to you. One question, we have someone from the Ventura area on, and they said, do they do anything? Does LACI do anything in Ventura? And then someone also asked, does LACI interact with other environmental groups such as Sierra Club, Audubon, etc.? You seem to mention mostly individuals in terms of the programs. Can you speak to that? Do you work with other organizations? And how far out from the LA area do you focus your work?
Yeah, we partnered with a group from Ventura County on what was called the Regional Energy Innovation Cluster Program, which I believe LACI ran for 5 years, and it just ended last year. And it was an attempt to, it was funded by the California Energy Commission, and it was an attempt to develop connective tissue between 4 counties. I think it was Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, LA County, and Orange County. And we had a couple of staff who were devoted to developing programming and other means of connecting a lot of the key stakeholders from their regions, like community colleges, trade schools, research universities, government agencies, labor groups. I think, the program had a fair amount of success, and there were 4 of these different cluster programs all throughout the state. I think there was one here in Southern California, one in the Central Valley, one in San Diego, and maybe one all the way up in the Bay Area. So yes, we have done collaborations in Ventura County. As to working with other enviro groups, yeah, I mean, we work with other enviro groups, every day. We've put together coalitions of support in favor of some of the bills that we've sponsored at the state and federal level that involved, I think for the EVs for All bill last year, we had over 80 organizations sign on as early supporters for the bill. And we're reaching out right now and assembling a coalition of enviro organizations to get behind the new bill that we're doing with Senator Gonzalez. And, for SB 1251 for the EV Equity Advocate Bill, I think we had over 100 organizations sign on. So we're constantly engaging with other enviro organizations, and we have some of them housed here at our campus. Mm-hmm. So, Climate Resolve is located here. Ciclavia is located here. Jobs to Move America is located here. The Environmental Defense Fund had a desk here for many years. So yeah, we're very engaged with a lot of other enviro groups.
Excellent, excellent. And Christy asks, is there a budding new tech that you're really excited about?
I get asked that question all the time, and it seems like every week there's a lot of buzz around a particular technology. I would say one of the things that I'm really interested in is microgrids. I think microgrids are really about to start getting a lot more attention. I think that one of the things that I've seen people starting to pay attention to is geothermal. Like that's a really, we don't have any companies that are in that space, but I think that's a really exciting technology. I mean, there's just so many. Software is obviously going to be really important to optimize a lot of the hardware tech that is currently out there. So, I'm starting to read a lot more about blockchain software and other types of software, AI type software or just AI technology that's being used to optimize technology. So there's really just so many exciting new technologies. It's kind of hard to pick one.
Right. And I know Al Gore's new company, which is sort of focused on data collection, is probably an important thing. We need that very much as a basis. So Sharon asked you that you mentioned a CARB-funded e-bike pilot. Can you give us any details about what that would look like? And she was inspired by the success of Denver's program, thinks that LA might be right for something like that.
Yeah, it's in its very early stages, so I can't talk too much about it. But it is it's going to look like, essentially a traditional bike lending service, but it's going to involve e-bikes and some other technologies. It's going to be deployed in a historically underserved community, and that's about all I can really talk about it right now.
Okay. All right. Great. Nikhil, is it Nikhil? Bombi had a question, but it's so specific. I'm going to ask you to unmic and ask your question directly. Can you do that?
Sure thing. Thank you, Diana. So, Mike, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to say that I am a startup founder running a social and environmental impacts analytics company that measures social and environmental impacts specifically on underserved communities. Now, we're starting our pilot in Pittsburgh, but once we have a proof of concept, we want to be able to demonstrate it can be applied to any metropolitan area. So would we be applicable for the incubator program, or because we're Pittsburgh based, the geographic scope won't really work out?
Yeah, you have to be based in LA for us to work with you. The city of LA is where we inhabit a city-owned building, and we get a lot of support from the city. And so we do try to make sure that companies have a presence here in the city of Los Angeles. Sometimes they use our campus as their headquarters, but a lot of times they'll have at least a sales operation here, a marketing operation. Some of their executive team can be located here. We'd love for them to have some sort of manufacturing or production facility here in LA. So yes, there does need to be a connection to the city of LA. Now, the market access program that we have does work with companies that are not located in LA, but that's really focused on pilot deployment and later stage companies. So that could potentially be an option for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Ashley Craig also had a question that might be a little bit more involved. Ashley, would you like to unmic and ask your question directly?
Sure, I'm happy to. So I had the opportunity to work briefly with a couple of the startups at LACI as part of the Climate Reality Project, part of the group that Andrew Ellis leads. And we talked a little bit about sustainability for the actual businesses themselves. And so I guess my question is, are there resources that LACI provides to businesses to help them become more sustainable, so they don't just have to rely on our volunteers to do that? And I specifically pointed out the challenge that I think that plastic pollution is going to continue to create. I think it's the one of the biggest drivers of demand for oil and gas. It also, we're becoming more and more aware of the, pretty detrimental impacts that all this plastic is having on human health and on planetary health. So given that, and given businesses now are, mostly kind of geared towards doing things sort of the cheapest, fastest way to do it, especially if you're a startup, you really don't have time to necessarily, do everything that's maybe most sustainably for the business itself. So are there things that LACI does or helps to provide to provide that kind of support? Like, for example, you gave a dry cleaner as an example. Dry cleaners need to move away from, handing out the clothes back in single-use plastic. And there are options for that. So are those the types of things that helps, or is it really just more from a capital?
There's a yes and a no there. Yes, we do work with the companies on making them more sustainable. Like the companies that you just brought up, the dry cleaner company, that's part of our Founders Business Accelerator program. So that's not a clean tech startup. That's really just we take a lot of the curriculum that we've developed for startups, and help introduce a lot of the concepts from there to small businesses here in LA that may not be a clean tech focused company, but they do want to make some commitment to scaling and to sustainability. And so, yes, we do have coaches who work with them on making their processes more sustainable. Do we provide cash to our startups, like resources to do that? No, we don't do that. We have funding available that our companies can apply for, as part of some of the funds that I mentioned earlier, but there's no specific resources for helping companies become more sustainable, like you just said. They can take some of the funding that they get from investors and from grants and other non-dilutive funding and use some of those resources to make themselves more sustainable. So yes, we do help them become more sustainable, but there's not like a set pot of funding that is available to do that. That would just be, prohibitively expensive for LACI to do that.
Understood. No, that makes sense. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, some folks I think might be interested in learning more about your job training programs. Where would you direct people on your website to that? If you have a link, feel free to drop it in the chat at some point, but can you direct them to?
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up right now. Give me.
Great.
Let's see.
We have a few more questions in the chat that I'm going to pose, but if you have a question that you would like to ask, you can go ahead and raise the hand emoji and we can call on you. There it is. Okay, so Mike put this link and this is for the workforce development. And that's great because someone also said that they had an interest in the green workforce and was wondering how to get more involved in that. As well as advocating for the Green Jobs Database bill. So is there anything that you would suggest in terms of if somebody wanted to support that bill
Yeah, I mean, if you send me an email, I drop my email in the chat, I will add you to the list of the coalition that we're putting together of supporters. And we will be communicating regularly with all those supporters.
And I assume our chapter's on the list, right, Kathy? You probably already had input.
Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you still have your Women in Clean Tech group?
We do.
That's a really great group. Maybe you want to say something about that.
Yeah. I think Diana, you're going to send the PDF of this presentation out to everyone, right?
We can make that available from our website.
You'll see there's a slide there with the Enhancing Community team that talks a little bit about the Women in Clean Tech program. Essentially, this program, I think, is now 5 years old, and it's really one of a kind. It's a group of LACI staff and some of our partners who meet, I think, bi-weekly now, and sometimes it's just like a breakfast, and then sometimes it's more like a small conference. They get like a 40-person conference room, and they talk about ways in which LACI and some of our partners can bring more women into the clean tech space, either as entrepreneurs, as mentors, as investors, or as employees. It's run by a woman named Estelle Reyes, who is really just incomparable. And if you just Google LACI, Women in Clean Tech, you'll find out. I think it'll take you to the page where you can sign up for updates on all the events that they host. I think it's bi-weekly.
Great. Okay, that's yeah. So they host events that outside people can participate in?
Yeah. Yeah, like they'll go to a restaurant here in the Arts District or somewhere in downtown and, get like a space where they could have, 15 to 30 people, and they bring in speakers, and they,
Nice.
have roundtable discussions, and it's a really great networking opportunity. It's really neat.
Great. All right. That sounds great. Now, I have been to LACI as part of Climate Reality presentation. I've had a tour. I loved it. Someone asked, do you still give tours? Is that still something someone can participate in that way?
Well, the LADWP's lighting efficiency system just went into effect. I need to turn on my lights.
Oh, okay. Well, we can still see you.
There you go. Yes, we do have tours, but they're not open to the public on Fridays the way that they used to be. They have to be done on a case-by-case basis. And so, like, if you wanted to set up a group tour for Climate Reality, you could just send me an email, and I'll work with our operations team to set up that tour. So we have to be, the DWP's section of the building isn't completely open to the public yet, but we will hopefully get back to doing the tours that we used to do every week at noon on Fridays.
Great. That sounds great. And I know Andrew has his hand up. So Andrew Ellis, who has been working with LACI in some of the business programs. Andrew, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Michael. I'm working with Jeff Drongowski on the Founders Business Accelerator for now, I guess, 5 years, doing the presentations. But we had just a legislative team at the Los Angeles chapter, and what we'd like to do is activate that team in support of the workforce development bill that you folks are wanting some support with. So I'm going to send you an email, but let's get the legislative team of the LA chapter, and then we work with Kathy and Cheryl at the San Fernando Valley chapter as well, to see if we can get you some support for that workforce. That, what was it, 1227? Simply
51.
1251.
1251. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to say we have a legislative team. We'll be in touch with you, and we have also the Ashley and a number of people on Charles Somali and some other people who have been participating with LACI for many years. So thank you so much for your presentation today.
Yeah, thank you for all that you've done for us, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys on building support for this bill this year.
We have another question in the chat. Aside from Sharam El-Sheikh, do you work with innovators outside the US? And if so, which countries? I thought that was interesting that you mentioned you had a contest or showcase at COP. And is that something you usually do, work outside the States, or was it just because of COP?
Well, we were really starting to develop some international partnerships with C40 and several other groups just prior to the pandemic. And then, once the pandemic hit and everything locked down, some of the progress that we were making in developing some global partnerships came to a halt. And so with COP26 and then COP27 this year, we're trying to get some momentum going for some of those programs. One of the big initiatives that we've been working on is the development of a $1 billion innovation fund that would be used to support projects like the zero emission delivery zone that we did in Santa Monica, and other projects where you bring together stakeholders from either a city government or a county government, and help work with them to deploy pilots for technology that are going to have an impact on reducing GHG emissions and car pollution, air pollution. And so we launched that idea at COP26 in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And then we have been working for the last year and a half or so on trying to build some support from city governments, other subnational governments around the world. And ultimately, you know, one of the things we're working with the U.S. State Department on is how do we elevate this to, you know, a national status, perhaps at COP28, if we're lucky, if not, you know, COP29 maybe. But there's a real need for funding to do those kinds of pilots, because there's a lot of great technology that has, you know, is waiting to be commercialized around the world. Some of it is lab proven, some of it is ready to deploy. There just isn't sufficient capital to get a pilot going, and that's one of the things that we're hoping to, you know, play a global leadership role in, is, you know, building recognition for that need and that vacuum.
I remember in your presentation, and it may be part of this, was it called Global LA? Was that the program? Is that part of what you're talking about? Is this partnership between private sector and government for funding?
Well, Global LA is an initiative run by the city of it's a non-governmental entity now, but
nonprofit, right?
It's a nonprofit, but it was created by the city of LA, much like LACI was 12 years ago. That is focused on building those you know, that connective tissue for Los Angeles.
Got it. Yeah, interesting. This is so exciting. I mean, everybody has really enjoyed your presentation in the chat. If anyone has a question, I don't see any hands up, but either please put it in the chat or raise your hand, and we can tell you what I'm going to do. I think I'm gonna try to unpin you here, Mike, so that we can see if there are any hands. Any hands up? Not seeing anybody's hands up. Okay, this is great. Well, everybody really enjoyed hearing you talk about this. How many of you, raise your hand if you already knew about LACI? Was LACI something you'd already known about? And so not that many. So this is really, really great. Vivian, do you have a question? Getting some questions here.
I was raising my hand to say that I do.
Okay.
However, now that I'm on screen,
yes,
that question about the international was mine.
Yeah.
And I have just an addendum to that. I was wondering, you know, innovative or startups from abroad sometimes establish a presence here in LA. And I was wondering if you have companies like that come to you for help, that actually they're coming from outside the country, but they want to hook into what you do.
Yeah, we do help companies. I mean, we can't provide financial assistance to them, but we do link them up with a lot of our partners. We work very closely with the mayor's international team. We work closely with the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation and their World Trade Center. We work with the governor's Office of Business Development, GoBiz. And you know, like just recently, I helped connect an Israeli company that is interested in developing a manufacturing facility here in Southern California. I helped link them up with the LAEDC, and you know, we do that kind of connecting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
Alberto, you had your hand up and it's no longer up. So if you have a question, feel free to ask it. You had mentioned something about solar. It sounded like that might be better served in our announcement section.
Yes, sorry I'm late. I live here in Los Angeles and Sherman Oaks. I happen to get this is what happens when making a plan.
Alberto, your sound is not very good. We're not hearing you very well.
Can you hear me?
It's very, the sound is very rough. All right, but
I'll try.
Maybe
I'll
if
try
you
computer.
Yeah, maybe you can type it into the chat and we can read it for you if you have a question. Okay, great. Okay, everybody is saying that this is so great and the presentation was lovely. And I'll tell you, let's see, Cooper's saying, great presentation. I'm waiting anxiously to hear if quitcarbon.com gets selected for the next LACI Incubator cohort. So, so I'm not sure about that, but Cooper is on I think, to track and hear more about it. So.
Yeah, good luck, Cooper. I'm not, unfortunately, on the selection committee. Those are my colleagues in our Unlocking Innovation team. It's probably a good thing because I would let a lot more companies into our portfolio than probably we have the capacity for. I get really excited by a lot of early stage companies. So
as somebody said, love the beautiful web you're weaving. So it's really great. So Alberto, you signed on again. Do you want to test your audio this time?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Wonderful. Yes, I live here in Sherman Oaks. For it's life is what happens while you're making other plans. I had talked to Michael a couple of years ago. I was involved in another startup. I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur, mostly in the computer industry. But I'm also very involved in sustainability for years. And one of the things that, given that I am a tenant right now, is that it would be nice to have one place where tenants can go and get their EV chargers and get their properties powered by solar, so saving in electrical utilities and bills and so on. The rental perspective is what I think is missing. There is a lot of groups. I have done a lot of research, but I like to perhaps go into the garage stage for a offering to rental to tenants to get early adopters to start charging their vehicles in their garages powered by solar energy.
That might be something that one of the LACI programs, the EV programs.
Well, we really only work with companies that are already fully
established.
Yeah, and have technology. They have technology that's just about ready for commercialization or already commercialized. I'm sure Alberto, is it Alberto?
Yeah, like I said, we talked 2 years ago. I was involved in a different startup having to do with recycling. So
yeah, we don't work with companies that are still in the bench testing phase. They have to have some revenue. They have to have a management team in place. They have to have control of their intellectual property. So there are certain requirements. We're early stage, but we're not the earliest stage.
I understand. I just wanted to put it on the table just in case somebody is interested.
Good. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Mike, thank you so much. For those of us like myself who've been there, this gave me even more information and I got to know LACI even a little bit more. So maybe we'll try to put together a tour. We'll reach out and see as Kathy's on board, I'm on board. How many would enjoy that? Doing a tour of LACI? All right.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, you'll definitely, we'll reach back out to you, Mike, and see. And, if you guys are doing some interesting programs, we'd be happy to share that at one of our meetings, or if you wanted to pop on and tell us about it, or we'll just add it to our newsletter. We would just love to be able to stay in touch with you and support the fine work you're doing, because feel free to take your mics off, everybody, and let Mike know how much you appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, it's good to see everyone tonight. Thank you all so much for joining. Thanks, Kathy, for bringing Mike to us. It was really, really good. And appreciate everybody being here. Take care.
Thank you for a great meeting.
Bye.